Hello, and this is C. Derek Varn on my channel, Varn Blog. I got attacked personally today about not speaking up enough about Palestine. It's come up in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 podcasts and videos, but it's not something that I talk directly about most of the time because I pre record my shows and because I have no idea what to meaningfully do about it. I'm not a believer in the protest model um, of the situation. I don't think protests have the same effect. I've talked about the history of this many times, that prior to the 20th century, the protests were a way to field an army. In the beginning of mass media, they were a way to show that you could influence debates in a democracy. After the mass media was most stultified, they could be mass, move, and then die out, become inchoate and projected upon. General sentiment in the U.S. is increasingly pro-Palestinian, and yet it's harder to get anything done about it in the U.S. Variety of reasons for that. Businesses can't grow their market share off of taking hard geopolitical stances like they can off of taking stances on domestic politics. So BLM was always an easier move, even though it's actually more divisive. What's going on in Gaza, at minimum, in less than 6 months from October 7th, is at least 30,000 dead. The majority of whom are women and children. Most are definitionally non-combatants. It's 1.5% of the entire Gazan population. To put that in perspective, 4% of the Japanese population was killed in World War II. As I've said priorly, this proves Steven Pinker wrong, because this is happening in a time period where war deaths are traditionally much lower. You hear reports of cardiac arrest from children dying literally of fear from bombs. Communicable diseases are spreading from lack of sanitation for months. It's basically turning an open air prison into shooting into a bowl of water. There's plenty of stuff to stop the bullets, but most of that stuff involves people. I'm aware of the genocide and ethnic cleansing going on. I'm also aware that podcasts are not really in a place to do much about it. You should be going to news sources you trust. On this, Al Jazeera, Middle East Monitor, to some degree Haaretz. I would not trust a lot of American news sources on this. You should be going to protest to show solidarity to people here because they need it. You definitely shouldn't be shaming anyone in fucking Dearborn, Michigan, or Hamtramck or whoever for not voting for Biden. I'm not doing analysis on this because the analysis on the ground is awful. It's been awful from day one. This is what I thought was going to happen. I could go into why that I think that most of the analogies the left was using was not a good way to view this, but it's kind of not here nor there. It's not a time to score points. As I've said in multiple interviews now, ending this slaughter is more important than making sure it goes well for communism. And it is a slaughter. Last time I checked, there's less than 4,000 Israeli dead. Less than 5.5 if you include the October 7th events. 5,500 to 30. I could go through the rest of the numbers for you. It's depressing. But just to remind you, there are 9 million Israelis. There are 6 million Palestinians. Roughly. There's 2 million Palestinians roughly in Gaza, or there were. There is a little over 4 million in the West Bank. The odds aren't good. Even looking at fourth gen warfare calculations, the odds aren't good. The international community must intervene. And I'm not telling you to do nothing. But I can tell you that a lot of individual protesting is unlikely to change the situation. Hopefully, the workers' movement and whatnot can take braver stances on this. But they're also afraid of SCOTUS right now, rightfully. Do what you need to do. And both Ukraine and Russia and in Palestine, we should be pushing for a settled peace beyond mere state and military solutions. We should be doing so even if it does not look like it will immediately help a communist goal. There are ways where it could, but that should not be our first concern in this scenario. This is a massacre. You oppose a massacre first. That's where your morality should be. I don't think that engaging in the atrocity exhibition on this will necessarily help. People get desensitized to it over time. People get desensitized to this information over time. And while it's horrible, I don't know that you can blame anyone. So do what you can, as you can. That's what I would tell you to do. I don't have any more grand statements on this. I've already covered it and how we got to this point. Eventually, once we know more, I want to talk to people from Palestine about the larger milieu. Now that we don't know what's happening, I don't want to sound like there's a nuance here. But as we know what might actually happen to slow this down. The Goldstone report didn't stop this. I don't know what South Africa's with the IDJ is going to actually international. Let's see, not IDJ, yeah. But the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, is going to do. I have no idea. The UN seems increasingly toothless. We'll see if some states stop buying Israeli spy tech. That might actually have some meat to it. On that note, do what you can.